Hello, and welcome to Matter of Fact, a podcast from the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center, where we report what matters. I'm your host, Hilawe Tibebe. With support from the Scripps Howard Foundation, our center works to counter misinformation and strengthen truth-based journalism across communities in Southeast Mississippi. Today's episode highlights our RACJC News article, Hattiesburg Nonprofit Tackles Mississippi's Adult Literacy Crisis with New Program. The conversation focuses on the launch of one of the first adult literacy programs in the state to address a portion of the roughly 700,000 Mississippians who are functionally illiterate. In this episode, we'll take a closer look at how illiteracy affects adults and the potential impacts programs like this one could create. We'll start off by addressing the gap in adult literacy programs, teaching methods suited for adults facing the issue, and the certification process required for instructors. Then we'll chat with reporter Sami Jordan about the inner workings of this story. We'll learn about the impact illiteracy programs have on the Pine Belt and what it unveils about the larger scale battle against illiteracy. You're in the kitchen trying a new recipe you found online. Everything's going right until you hit a step that doesn't quite make sense. You pause, reread, maybe even look it up. That one line stalls your whole process. For someone who struggles to read or understand instructions, that moment of uncertainty isn't occasional. It's reoccurring. Mississippi is home to over 2.9 million residents, 24% of whom are illiterate, according to the Barksdale Reading Institute in Oxford. That means that they can read words on a page, but they struggle to understand what it means. Shakita Taylor, who has worked with the Child Support Division of the Mississippi Department of Human Services, has seen adults struggle with illiteracy.
A lot of people can self-diagnose that they can't really understand a lot of what they read, but they don't understand that that's functional illiteracy.
Over time, she started to notice a pattern of miscommunication among clients. They were agreeing to and signing court orders that they did not fully understand.
A couple of weeks would go by, and then someone would show up at the office and be completely upset because of their child support obligation. And I would say to them, I don't understand why you're upset. This is what we talked about in my office. I gave you opportunity to read it. I didn't change anything that you read. And I slowly began to understand that a lot of the population that I was dealing with was functionally illiterate. They could read and write general statements, but when it came to reading what was in the court order and understanding and implementing it, that there was a learning gap.
Along with her experience in the Child Support Division, Taylor has personal ties to the uphill battle against illiteracy.
Had my child not been able to get the help that she needed, then she would have become one of those functionally illiterate adults because she just would have been passed along in the system.
Having seen the positive effects of combating reading and writing issues early on in her own household, Taylor is now the sponsor of an adult literacy program. The Mississippi Encyclopedia shows that adult literacy has been affecting Mississippi since the 20th century. There were efforts in the 1990s to establish reading and writing programs in select schools and universities across the state. However, reports show certain communities in the state have gone without resources for decades. RISE is the Hattiesburg nonprofit stepping up to the occasion, with Catherine Jordan as the executive director of their adult literacy program.
We have been in this area since 2001. It's been a great hidden gem. But we have recently, over the years, expanded and exploded onto the nonprofit scene and offered many more classes. Our mission is to educate, encourage, and empower women and men to rise to self-sufficiency.
That was Jordan's, with a little insight into the organization for those tuning in that may not be familiar with them. Prior to the beginning of their adult literacy program, RISE has been offering GED, financial literacy, and life skills training classes. With their new initiative, RISE connects students with individualized reading and developmental resources and creates room for those who may not meet the requirements for their other programs.
Our adult literacy program started because we always like to say yes to people and accept people in. However, to go through our Thrive classes, you have to have a 9th grade reading comprehension level. And we were noticing over the last few years how more and more people are coming to us that struggle filling out the application, or they struggle to read the little test they read before they get in. So we always want to offer resources when someone is not able to come into the program.
Although different public school systems and universities in the area have had literacy classes in the past, Jorans and the team at Rise were shocked to find out that there were no active adult literacy programs in the entire Pine Belt region.
So we thought this is an area that Rise can fill the gap. And so we started a diligent journey on getting accredited, getting trained and certified, and reaching out to community sponsors that'll allow us not only the donations, but also the locations to take on this massive new program.
Other than securing funding and community support, it was important to the Rise team to find the best approach to teaching adults. Courtesy of the state, Rise instructors are paired with certified trainers to learn the Labak method of teaching. It's a method built on patience, teaching adults to read one sound, one word, one step at a time, developed with the understanding that learning as an adult is different. It focuses on steady progress rather than immediate results. Solving illiteracy isn't just about the learner, though. It's also about empowering the teachers to guide them effectively. Rise ensures that instructors are certified before beginning the program.
So what we do is we send out a request for instructors, and we get a group. We have to have at least 5 at a time, and then we petition the state. They send someone. Of course, we have to pay for all of this, and they send a trainer. The minimum class to be certified is 12 hours, so we have to make sure that that trainer is available to come, and then we go through the training process.
Rise intends on covering the cost of training for their instructors. They hope to certify at least 15 in time for the official launch of the program next year.
Illiteracy is a cycle. So if I had a parent who struggled with reading, then not only do I as the mom become better, but then the next generation and the next generation and the next generation.
Currently, there is no definite number of adult literacy programs in the state, despite Mississippi still ranking among the lowest when it comes to literacy rates in the country. By equipping adults with the skills necessary to understand what they see and hear, the success of programs like Rise would curb a decades-long issue for the state. The story you just heard was reported and produced by RHCJC News reporter Sami Jordan. This was Sami's first independent story, one she directed from start to finish. She spent weeks securing her interviews, gathering research on Rise, and understanding the scarcity of resources for adults who struggle with reading and writing. She joins us now to talk about what inspired her to cover Mississippi's literacy crisis and what she learned in the process. Sami, let's start by pulling back the curtain on what led you to Rise and their new adult literacy initiative.
So my boss Whitney came to me asking if I would do my first ever independent story, and it was about the adult literacy program with Rise. Bria Turner, my coworker, was the one to actually pitch the story after having a conversation with Catherine Jorns. So it was really nice to be able to have that resource. Bria was very helpful with obtaining the interviews, and it just came together very well.
So you said that with the help of Bria Turner is how you got connected with Catherine Jorns. How was that process like, securing that first interview, or trying to get a feel for if she was willing to be interviewed for your story?
So it was really comforting to reach out to Catherine. Actually, I had her number, and because I knew that Bria and Catherine had already talked, I knew that Catherine was already on board. And not only that, but she also had a list of people who were eager to talk to me. So I was able to talk to Catherine and secure the rest of my interviews through her.
That's really interesting. Here at the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center, we focus on maintaining an unbiased angle. So how did you balance the information about Rise themselves with the issue of illiteracy?
That's a great question, Hilawe. So, to me, I did not find it much of a challenge to be able to remain unbiased simply because I did a lot of research regarding the fact that Mississippi adults are most of the time functionally illiterate. And once I talked to Shakita Taylor, she was able to provide some real life examples, and I feel like that was very, very helpful because, as my part remaining unbiased, I'm not one to give personal examples. I'm here to give you statistics and data that's been fact checked. Shakita Taylor was able to give me real life situations that I could get viewers interested in, and I didn't have to be biased. These were just her personal experiences.
Do you think adult literacy programs are important in Mississippi?
Yes. I think that adult literacy programs are essential because there has been such a decrease in education for the past few decades for Mississippi. So those kids who slipped through the cracks are grown now and they're living real world situations, and they're adults. There are parents, there are grandparents, and some of them might be embarrassed to come out and say, I need help. But providing adult literacy courses, there's other people in the same boat as you. You're going into a community where there's people who are struggling the same way as you, and that doesn't make you any less of a person. But I also think that these adult literacy programs are important in other areas of the state.
Like you said, education in general has been an issue for Mississippi in the past decades. So leading into my next question, what did you learn about adult illiteracy throughout this process?
Honestly, Hilawe, I did not even know that Mississippi was struggling with literacy in the first place. So when I was first assigned this, I was like, wow, this is an issue, especially because I just did a story on dyslexia. So it was like children who were struggling with literacy, and to be able to connect the two stories, for me, it was just like, wow, this is a widespread issue. This isn't just like a few people. This isn't just a few hundred people. This is like thousands of people who are experiencing some type of impact because they are not functionally literate. Like, for example, when Shakita Taylor spoke about a mother losing her child to foster care, that broke my heart, because to think about, she lost her baby and her baby was malnourished because she could not read instructions. And there's so many other issues that can be presented when you cannot understand instructions.
I know you brought up Shakita Taylor, and other than her ties to the organization, what drew you to make her the character in your story?
Shakita Taylor has experienced functional illiteracy firsthand, not only from adults but from children as well. It meant a lot to me. It's something that stood out about her was that she has a daughter with dyslexia, and so she understands the struggles and knows for a fact, that they're not unintelligent just because they struggle in one area. And she had so many life experiences where she was able to give me perfect examples of where adults have struggled because they are functionally illiterate. And it's like, someone like me, if you were to ask me for those examples, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have known that these issues were caused because they were functionally illiterate. But she was able to recognize that. And so that's a really good question. That's exactly why I made her my character for the story.
Your passion for this whole story and for the issue of illiteracy is very prevalent, even in this interview right now. So I know we talked about this being your first time leading an independent project. What did that process look like for you, and was it any different from your previous experiences reporting?
It was extremely different. Previously, I had a middleman, anything that I worked on, it would go to Justin Glowacki. He was my lead reporter, and he would fix whatever he needed to, and then it would go to our editor. Now, my stuff goes straight to the editor, which is a little more pressure, kind of feel like. But honestly, it makes me feel better because I'm seeing how much or how little is changed whenever she edits it, and it's very, very helpful. The process honestly came together very well. I was extremely grateful that Abria had already gotten Catherine Jordan's up and ready for this, and so everything just fell into place very easily. I was able to get all of my interviews within the same week. Because this was an independent story, I didn't have anyone on my team necessarily, and I am a student, so I had classes. There was one instance where the Rise Adult Literacy Program actually invited us to their soft opening, but I had a class. I'm very thankful for my coworkers, Morgan Gill and Abria Turner. They were able to go to the soft opening when I was unable to go. To be honest, working under Justin for a couple of months really prepared me to get to the point where I'm at, where now I can take those independent stories. Because when I was working for Justin, I was already writing the drafts for the article, the package, the radio. I was already doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now, except now I don't have that person I can go knock, 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 hey, I have a question. I mean, I do have Whitney, but I feel bad asking those questions. I feel more secure working more independently. I feel very blessed for the opportunity that I'm given to work on these independent stories, because I have found that my passion is for advocating for the people who are misrepresented in the media, or maybe they don't get any representation at all. For example, if you go look up the Rise Adult Literacy Program, there's not much coverage on it or on adult literacy in Mississippi at all. And it's the same way for the last couple stories that I've done. So to be able to get information out to the public about issues or struggles that a lot of the community face is extremely important to me.
That's some really insightful information, and I know that you, throughout the months of being on Justin's team, you definitely developed that professional relationship, and he was able to guide you and prepare you for this role that you have now. As your friend outside of this, I can attest to how you're very good at keeping up with your schedules and the different things that you are required to do or are your responsibilities throughout a given day. But given that this was something new, something that you hadn't done before, how did this independent project play into your time management and your day-to-day routine?
I won't lie to you, Hilawe. It was a little bit of a struggle just because I have classes every day. If I don't have work, I'm in class. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I work from 8 a.m. to 12, and then I go to class from 1 to 5:30. And it's the opposite for Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have classes from 8 to 2:30, and then I work from 2:30 to 5. So to be able to schedule all of my interviews in those times where I'm actually on the clock, it can be a little struggling. It was much easier when I had Justin to rely on, because if I wasn't able to go to that interview, I knew that Justin could. However, working at the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center, we truly are a team. Abria, Nick, and Morgan were able to go out and get interviews for me when I was not able to. For example, Catherine invited me to the soft grand opening of the Rise Adult Literacy Program. However, I had classes at that time, but Nick, Abria, and Morgan were quick to say yes to going and getting those interviews and B-clips for me, and I was so appreciative of that. I definitely am thankful for my work environment and how they prioritize my education over being physically there when getting an interview, because they know that I can go back and look at that interview and still get all the information that I would have gotten if I was there.
That's really interesting, and personally, I find your journey as a reporter at the center really inspiring, and I feel like we're setting the blueprint for future student reporters and future journalists alike that are gonna come to the center and learn that we are a team and we grow through what we go through. Since reporting on Rise and their new initiative, have you heard or seen anything about it in your community?
So actually, the other day, I was doing a class assignment about the new 7 Brew opening up on Hardy Street, and they're offering free drinks. The free drinks are in support of a community charity of 7 Brew's Choice. The first 7 Brew that opened supported the Hub City Humane Society, and the second location of 7 Brew is supporting the Rise Adult Literacy Program, and that meant so much to my heart, actually, because to be honest, I had never heard of it, and that makes me so happy that someone with 7 Brew caught an eye. They caught an eye, and they felt impacted enough to be able to raise funds for them, because they're providing free drinks. When you go and get a free drink at 7 Brew right now, the crew member will talk to you about the Adult Rise Literacy Program and ask you if you're interested in donating. And even if you're not interested in donating, they're getting that voice out there. They're letting people know about the program. And a lot of people are interested in Seven Brew, so they have been able to raise a good amount of money with what they're doing. So it meant a lot to me knowing that I had just finished working on this story and I'd seen it out on multiple outlets, and a few weeks later I see that the Seven Brew is supporting this charity, so that's really awesome to me.
Sami Jordan, thank you for your reporting and for helping us understand the urgency of tackling illiteracy in Mississippi. Now it's time for What is True, our fact-checking segment where we break down common claims, talk about how to verify them, and give you the tools to spot what's real. Joining us is Walker Scott, our What is True Media Literacy Coordinator. Walker is over our fact-checking investigations and leads the center's Ask Me What is True community media literacy trainings. Walker, the story focuses on literacy, but how does media literacy fit into that same conversation?
Media literacy depends on the ability to read, comprehend, and interpret information. If adults struggle to understand written text, they are less likely to evaluate news, identify credible sources, or interpret claims. Both forms of literacy aid people's capacity to navigate information accurately.
We often talk about misinformation spreading on social media, but what role does literacy play in whether people can fact-check what they see?
Fact-checking requires reading comprehension, attention to detail, and the ability to compare information across sources. Adults who are functionally illiterate may miss the meaning of words that they read, making them more vulnerable to misleading posts, misinterpretations, or false claims because they can't fully analyze context or verify details independently.
So what are some red flags of misinformation that even early readers or adult learners can start recognizing right away?
There are still simple warning signs you can spot right away that help you stay safe from misinformation. Here are a few to pay attention to. First, notice big emotional language. If a post tries to make you feel scared, angry, or rushed, especially with phrases like "act now" or "they don't want you to know this," that's a red flag. Second, look for missing sources. If you can't tell who wrote it, where the information came from, or why they're sharing it, that's a big sign to slow down and question it. Third, watch out for headlines or images that feel dramatic or exaggerated. If something seems too shocking to be true, it often is. Even if reading is challenging, these visual cues give you a quick way to call out misinformation.
For listeners who want to learn more about RISE and their resources but may not know how to get in contact, what's a good place to start?
Adults interested in the program can sign up for RISE's website by clicking Yes. Instead of filling out a full application, RISE will then call to discuss further steps in getting enrolled in the program.
That's What is True, with Media Literacy Coordinator Walker Scott. You can learn more about the program or submit a question of your own at r8cjcnews.com/WITREQ or by calling 601-266-TRUE. That's 601-266-8783. This episode was adapted from our R8CJC News article, Hattiesburg Nonprofit Tackles Mississippi's Adult Literacy Crisis with New Program. Special thanks to the videographer involved in this project, Nick Sharma, and of course, reporter Sami Jordan, who you heard from earlier in the show. You can read the full story and explore related reporting at racjcnews.com. Be sure to follow us on social media at racjcnews to keep up with more stories just like this one. As always, thank you for listening and for spending time with us as we take you behind the scenes of the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center. I'm Hilawe Tibebe, and this is Matter of Fact.